Okay, so today I have a video for you guys to provide an update on the Moscow murders at the University of Idaho. In this video, I'm just going to cover who the main suspect is, and then later on I'm going to make an additional video that's going to tie into this. And that'll cover more of the timeline of what happened at the University of Idaho in Moscow, Idaho on the night of Sunday, November 13th, 2022. So who's our suspect? Bryan Kohberger. This is the main suspect that was apprehended by authorities as of Friday, December 30th. But who is he? Who is this Bryan Kohlberger? I think we're going to have a lot of questions on what drove him to do this. What was his motive? What are the connections to the victims? And I think we're going to have a ton of questions that, we're going to be wondering what drove this mad crime. And let's just hope that in time we get more answers from the authorities and, the right people to give us a more idea of what happened. Okay, so what do we know so far about Bryan? Well, he's 28 years old as of today. This guy's about 6 feet tall, about 185 pounds. We know that he attended the DeSales University and graduated with a master's degree in psychology in May of 2020. He's also currently, as we speak, a student at the University of Washington State Pullman's campus, which is going to be a key to the investigation because this puts him only 15 minutes from the scene of the crime. Literally in the map, you could look at it. It's about 8.7 miles. So this is enough time to do something and, get back to your campus and have an alibi, whatever we're going to see come out of this on trial. So in my research, I found that Bryan was taken out by the badass SWAT team of the FBI and local police near the Poconos Mountains in Pennsylvania. And this happened at about 3 in the morning on Friday, December 30th. Officer said he had a quite blank stare. I mean, you got to imagine. You're sleeping in your onesie, you're relaxing, you're pretty much knocked out. Guy's feeling confident that he got away with 4 murders probably. And here comes the FBI SWAT team, and these guys don't play. They when it's time for them to do their job, they're gonna go in full gear. So at 3 in the morning, this clown is probably knocked out. Raid comes raining down on him, and you can imagine the look on his face. I would love to have seen that. On top of that, there's a key thing that he asked the police as he was getting arrested. One of the officers stated that he said if anyone else has been arrested. I gotta say, this is a very curious question that he asked. Is this implying that someone else was involved in what happened with the murders? Did Bryan really, we gotta ask, did Bryan really commit 4 murders without being hurt at all? Is there a second person involved? And I think, as things develop, we're gonna be learning more about this, as I said. Sources also stating that as this raid was going on, there was warrants being put out for a search warrant at his place and apartment back in Washington on campus, and that started at 7:30 in the morning local time and mountain time. So what led to these arrests? From the research that I've gathered, there was a white Hyundai that was seen at the crime of the scene. We learned that Bryan actually owns this white Hyundai Elantra, and that was towed from the site. So here's the first connection we have. He has the same type of car that was seen near the homicide site. Second of all, forensics found DNA on the site. My theory is that when they ran the DNA, they had no record, since Bryan probably does have a criminal record background. But according to the arrest warrant, Bryan had a team on him for the past 4 days, trailing him to make sure he doesn't go out of the country or anything like that probably. That team might have also intercepted something of his that had a DNA on it. Could have been a cup, a coffee cup, throw it away in the trash somewhere. Somehow they probably got that. They were able to run it, and they have a match to the DNA on the crime scene. And I do believe somewhere that DNA is somewhere in 1 in 5 million people who have a match. So we have a car, and now we got a DNA that are matched. But it'll be also interesting what else ties them to these murders. What, is there a connection to the victims and anything further like that? We learned that Bryan is a PhD student at the University of Washington, the Pullman campus. He's going to school there for criminology. At the same time he's been there, in the last 6 months, Bryan posted on Reddit a survey. The survey, he aimed it at criminals. He posted on 6 different forums, and it's geared towards prisons, ex-cons, prisons, prison talk, and felons. This survey is very interesting. Again, it's not weird because he's a criminology student, but I think it's the stuff that we're tying him to. He's tied to the white Hyundai, the DNA, he's a person of interest. In this survey, he's asking criminals certain questions on the crimes they committed. And some of these questions are, did you prepare for the crime before leaving your home? Please detail what you were thinking and feeling at that point. How did you travel to and enter the location at which the crime occurred? Question 3, before making your move, how did you approach the victim or target? Please detail what you were thinking and feeling. Question 4, what was the first move made in order to accomplish your goal? Please detail any thoughts and feelings at this point. 5, before leaving, is there anything else you did? And so on and so forth. He has a few other questions like this, and it just makes him more, suspect. I think when it comes to the time of trial, this is not going to help him. I mean, Bryan left a trail of cookie crumbs here for investigators and the prosecution to feed on. Maybe he should have asked the question on why not to post on Reddit before you commit a crime. But lesson learned there, Bryan. So we know in the context of criminal alleged degree, this survey may seem perfect, innocent, but it's going to gain some harrowing sinistrum in the light of his arrest on suspicious of the quadruple homicide that is occurred. So authorities held a press conference on Friday, December 30th at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, and they discussed the case. Authorities were pretty strict that no questions will be answered because Bryan has to be in Idaho and be charged officially. So no, they can't talk about the case. It's still sealed to protect the case integrity. Now, as of now, Bryan Kohlberger is still sitting in a jail cell, waiting for the extradition to go through from Pennsylvania to Idaho. Two things can happen. Bryan volunteers, if he does, his ass will be shipped to Idaho immediately. But if he doesn't volunteer, then now there's going to be a whole lot of legal paperwork that has to happen, and it could take a few days to a few weeks till Bryan is shipped over to Idaho. So in the meantime, I don't think a lot of questions will be answered until he's officially charged. And as the authority said at the press conference, that's when they're going to open the documents to the public and the journalists, and people will be able to see more. I do want to iterate, the authorities did say if you have any more tips, if you know Bryan Kohlberger yourself, if you have had any experiences with him, anything like that, to please keep calling that tip line in so they can build a case, learn more about him, build a better profile. I think we all want to see justice come out of this. These 4 victims had a very horrific ending, and they do deserve justice. So we'll see what happens. So be on the lookout. I'm going to create another video, like I said earlier, and that's going to cover more of what happened at the other house, how the 4 murders happened, and more of the timeline from November 13th, the day it happened, till today, what led to today, and all the roadblocks the authorities ran into. Well, thank you for listening, and hit the subscribe and like button.